And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning. I don't know if I like that, the Big Millie, but we appreciate you joining us. Don't forget, coming up on Thursday, we'll be back promoting our school, securing our future, thanks to our friends at CapEd Credit Union and, of course, Team Mazda Subaru. We will be at Columbia High School in Nampa. Looking forward to talking about, the issues in education, of course, and taking your calls about the issues that matter to you. We really couldn't do it without our great friends at CapEd Credit Union and Team Mazda Subaru. A lot going on today. We will get to the issues involving, many things, certainly the legislature. And when we're talking about the legislature and whether or not the pending bills that have been already smacked down, even though the governor hasn't had a chance to vote on them, like the CBD oils, like perhaps the Castle Doctrine, like the grocery tax, like the victims' rights law that have been smacked down, and you wonder, well, who are the legislators representing? Leadership or the governor or you? So we'll talk a little bit about that. But joining us now from the Forward Movement Training Center, our great friend Matt Schneider to talk about, the Second Amendment and how to protect ourselves. Matt, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good to have you with us here at KIDO Talk Radio. You've been pretty vocal on Facebook and social media concerning firearms, the Second Amendment, training folks. Can you give us some details for people that haven't followed you at the Forward Movement Training Center?
Yeah, so, essentially what we do is self-defense training for, the civilian law enforcement military markets. But as it pertains to the recent events in Florida that we've been pretty active about, I've been a national instructor for active shooter response for a number of years and have obviously followed these events as they've continued to occur. And, the incident that happened in Florida is different on many different levels. And it's just obvious that something has got to change, and we have got to quit doing the same song and dance of talking about gun control, pretending like the object is really at fault, and start doing much more about securing our schools and specifically addressing the concept of arming highly qualified, well-trained teachers and staff members in schools, understanding that they are the true first responders in the event of these attacks.
Well, Matt, we've heard so much about this in the past, and people are going back and forth. Of course, nationally, people are saying, teachers are going, I don't want to be armed. Joy Behar saying, I'd rather be shot than be responsible for protecting folks. What do you make of that response, of the vilification of firearms and self-protection?
Well, I think those are two different topics. Of course, we see the gun be attacked every single time, even though we're seeing these types of attacks happen with different methods. And those of us who use some sort of logic and reasonable sense understand that the tool, the object that's being used by evil is not at fault, and that if we have people with good intent, pure heart, with the same tool, these events don't happen. When it comes to the teachers, we don't need every single teacher in every single classroom to be armed, to have this level of protection to save our students. What we need is a handful that have the correct mindset, have the desire to do what we saw, happen in Florida and several other places where you have teachers that run to the gunfire, put themselves in between the gunman and the shooter, sacrificing themselves. And we have teachers in every school that would be willing to do that. And if we were to give them the equipment to be able to fight back without putting their bodies in between themselves and students, then that's all we need is just a handful of them. But it's something that would truly have to be a volunteer kind of thing. They wouldn't be mandated or required to do it. And, if we had a few in every school, that'd be amazing.
Now, you're training people here locally, teachers locally?
We are. Yep.
What's been the reaction, Matt, to that?
So the response has been really overwhelming. Of course, we have both sides, that are being very vocal about it on our social media, on our Facebook page, which we encourage people to get involved with. We want to hear from everybody, but we have been contacted by lots and lots of teachers, some of them privately because they are worried about being vilified, and not much different than what we saw in the election, where he had a lot of supporters of a candidate that didn't want to come out and say it. You have a lot of supporters of this topic that they want to do it discreetly. They want to be trained. They are hopeful that the school districts will allow it to happen, and they understand that if they were to be go through the right selection process, the right training process, have the right backgrounds. By the way, we have lots of former military personnel that work in schools all throughout the state, be perfect candidates. They understand that if they were given the opportunity, they have the desire to protect and would do so in a heartbeat and really feel like they could make a difference in the event that this kind of attack were to happen.
Matt Schneider joining us as we continue on here at KIDO Talk Radio. What type of training is involved for someone to be competent enough to protect themselves in an active shooting situation?
A lot. So from our standpoint, it starts with really, seeing who wants to volunteer for it. From those volunteers, it starts with amongst our team, we have a psychologist. He's got his PhD in psychology, and it starts with the evaluation to make sure that they are of the right mindset and mental fitness for it. And then it's a very immersive training experience where they are informed and instructed and trained on all the elements of being involved in a real world of firefight. They understand the difference between Hollywood and reality. Our facility is designed to replicate the real world and put people in self-defense situations where they have to make those split-second shoot, don't shoot decisions. So they're trained in all that. Then they have to be qualified. Their qualification would mimic that of law enforcement. And they would have to shoot the same type of qualification and pass that. And then you have ongoing regular training in addition to it. And then on a side note, we have been approached by a major insurance organization that is interested in the potential of writing a specific policy to cover these teachers in school. So we have the fight before the fight during the fight, and the fight after the fight, all being addressed.
Matt, how big of a concern is that? Because we have folks in the legislature that are looking at enhancing the Castle Doctrine, the Stand Your Ground law. I'm sure you're familiar with that fight going on. Is that a real concern? Most of us believe that if somebody comes after you, the law would do the right thing and say, well, it was self-protection, self-defense, and not look to prosecute the person that took down the perp.
Well, what I can tell you about the law is that, it should be always seen as a light switch, either on or off. And if somebody were to violate the law, any law, however slight, they are 100% criminally liable for that. Versus if they follow the law, there is zero criminal liability. And unless somebody were to be really highly trained, understand the full dynamics and realities of the decision that they've made to have a gun for self-defense, there is exposure to the potential of unknowingly violating a law and having to deal with those consequences. And so understanding the law is critically important. And then understanding the potential consequences, and that the courts will come at you with everything if there is a law violated. But that's our society. If you make a mistake, even if your intent is pure, there are consequences for that.
Matt Schneider joining us as we continue on here on KIDO Talk Radio. Matt, how intense is this? I mean, for those of us that, want to get trained or, are fearful, how long is the process? You've described what people go through, but how long does it take to be comfortable enough to conceal carry and to be able to react in a dangerous situation?
Yeah, so initially we have a 40-hour program that we already have in place, that we've been working with private companies, private employees that are armed in the event of this happening already, some private schools. And it starts out at a minimum of a 40-hour block of training. which it's kind of interesting, Kevin, because we've been, some people said, oh, really, 40 hours, is that enough? And yet we have the 8-hour enhanced concealed carry, and people think that that's enough. It's a very immersive, interactive, intense program that starts at 40 hours and then builds off of there depending on their skill sets. And it is a pass-fail from our part. So if they're not meeting the minimum standards and they're not qualifying, then they don't pass the course. They don't get signed off by us.
Matt Schneider joining us from Forward Movement Training. Kevin Miller here at KIDO Talk Radio. Matt, I know you're not a psychologist, but you tell it like it is. What do you make of this counter narrative where people are blaming, as you've said, the tool and not the criminal?
I think it makes for good media by those that want to spread that. I think it creates unnecessary fear in people's minds that the tool is evil. It redirects the attention off of the real issues at hand. All of us know that understand firearms, that what the media says about the guns being evil is completely incorrect. It's always the person behind the tool using it for ill intent and evil that is the problem. And until the focus transitions away from the object and on to the person, we're going to continue being in this place of not getting anywhere. And one of the reasons why at Forward Movement Training we're addressing it head on where it needs to be focused.
Matt, if people want to get a hold of you, want more information, what can they do?
Well, we'd love people to jump onto our Facebook page, the Forward Movement Training page, and start interacting with us there on this issue. We're moving full steam ahead on that. We have our website. It's fmtwarrior.com. You can find us there. And then, of course, we are located downtown Meridian, in between Pine and Franklin on Meridian Road. I'd love for people to schedule a time to come take a tour on our website and see what we have to offer. And just join the conversation. We want people's support because this is a topic where we're having a lot of come out, and they're very noisy. And so the more support that we have, the better off we will be in continuing this fight.
Well, Matt, don't be a stranger. We'd love to have you back, sir.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate your time, bud.
You have a great one. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Our great friend Matt Schneider joining us. Coming up, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Your thoughts on the governor's race and concealed carry in schools. Now that we heard from Matt, we'd love to hear from you next. Blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning, 22 after the hour. Thank you all for joining us. Liberty Linda, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Kevin.
Thank you for your patience.
First of all, thank you for the wonderful interview of Dr. Tommy Alquist. And, when I first heard he was running for governor, I prayed about it, and I sincerely have never felt the Spirit so strongly upon me. So first of all, that's the most important thing for me. And, but plus that, you can hear that he has a vision for Idaho. He is a man with a heart for the people. And I believe he was inspired to run. And from listening to him, you can hear it in his voice how diligent he will work for us here in Idaho. So anyway, I just think he will be a wonderful governor, and I think he truly loves Idaho and the people here.
Well, you actually broke the story of him running before he did.
Yes. Well, he was, my state president in the church that I go to, so I knew him from that. Not real well, but, when you've heard 3 or 4 hour-long talks that he gave, you get to know the person. And so I truly believe he has a wonderful heart, and he wants to do what's best for this state. That's what I believe.
Well, we appreciate that. Anything else you'd like to share with us this morning?
Well, yes, about the Second Amendment. I believe in concealed carry, that a teacher that would want to conceal carry should be able to, and also in the office help in a school, should be able to conceal carry so that, if someone comes in, an intruder, he won't know. Or the person that comes in, they won't know where they have to be careful or something. So it would detour someone from coming into a school in the first place. That's what I believe.
Well, we believe you. Thank you, Liberty Linda.
Thank you, Kevin, for all you do. We love you here.
Well, we'll remember you when you're a best-selling author.
That would be wonderful.
Only if we can get the first interview.
You have it. You've got it.
All right. We've got you on tape. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
25 after the hour. More of your phone calls next at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Time for traffic and back to your phone calls. Let's go to Hank with Kevin Miller at 580-KIDO. Hello, Hank.
Good morning. Bob Nuckenbauer was talking about the delays on the Castle Doctrine bill over in the House and Mercer's committee. The biggest, quickest way would be if Tea Party Bob got the Gem State Patriot, get an interview with Brad Little, and have Brad Little come out for Castle Doctrine or come out for a statement of that, and come out with a statement saying that he hopes that the delays in committee would end and that they come to a vote in the House. This would be the quickest way of defeating both Governor Otter's and Speaker Bettke's tactics on this bill. And exploded. That's why basically Brad Little dodged the meeting over there in Nampa, was because it would undermine the governor's strategy in defeating the bill in committee. Once it comes out on the floor, the governor himself will be forced to come out for it, and a bunch of other people who have private reservations about the bill will be forced to come out and vote support it too. But it has to be forced out of committee to do that. And they're playing a game with it to basically defeat it there. And the quickest way is to get a public statement from Brad Little. And if Bob Nuckenbauer is very willing to do that, I think that would go a long ways in breaking the logjam on this bill.
Well, fair enough. Thank you, Hank.
Well, thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. We roll on. Doug in Mountain Home, good morning. You're on with Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, Kevin. I don't have a TV. I'm pretty well reclused up where I live at, so I get my news from here, mostly here lately. But yesterday on the way home, I don't even buy the newspaper. I haven't all my life, but I'll look at the headlines, and I see on the Statesman, they're hollering, screaming at Trump, both sides of the Senate, saying that he needs to jump on board with this gun legislation or they're going to lose the midterm elections and he ain't going to have, you know what? How do you see it? I don't see it that way. I think it's a big front by the news media blowing this thing out of proportion. And if he jumps on this, you think he's going to get voted back in? The people that voted him in are the ones right here that's talking to you. You know what I mean?
No, I totally agree with you. And look, that would be a bad call. That's why I jumped on him when he said he wanted to get rid of due process. You got to keep people in check, even if they're your friends.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to be smarter than that to see through it. That even these Republicans, I've been hearing that a bunch of them, I don't know, like I've heard up to 20 of them are going to leave this term. They're not even your incumbents. They're not even going to, run again. They're all in bed together. I think the Democrats and the Republicans, they're all in bed together. It's old school. They don't like what has happened. They don't like the change. They're just, I don't know how to say it. I really don't.
Well, no, you've hit the nail on the head, Doug. You've hit the nail on the head. That's the whole plan.
Yeah, it's just, I think the people of this country are seeing through it. The ones that got a brain and got eyeballs are seeing through this. And I'm just not good with words, Kevin.
Doug, neither am I. You're in good company.
So God bless you for this thing that I've been listening to and the people you had on. This one with Liberty Linda, I didn't catch the interview you had with whoever it was that's running for governor. Who was it, Kevin?
Dr. Ahlquist, Doug.
Okay. I mean, I got to do some studying to see who I want to vote for, but I'm sick of the ones that are in there. Period.
You and me both.
I am. I mean, even Little, I'm sick of them. So this place needs to change, but it don't need to be a liberal. You know, and that's what's scary to me, Kevin. I've been here damn near all my life. And seeing the influx of people, this place being on Forbes magazine, being the place to move to, we're going to get a whole club full of people that are coming here we ain't going to like. And they're going to be looking for political offices. So that's all I got to say.
Doug, thank you.
Yep. You too, Kevin. Bye.
Bye-bye. More of your phone calls next. Plus, what about Marcy's Law? Was there something wrong with it, and why did it fall 5 votes short of, well, giving victims of crime rights in Idaho, expanded rights? Was that a good move? We'll talk to Representative Zito next, and more of your phone calls with me, Kevin Miller, on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good.
Blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning. Before we get to Cindy and Blair, let's go to Representative Christy Zito joining us once again. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
You know what I love about you?
What?
is that you take advantage of this program and you go, hey, let's get the word out, let's get the message out. I wish more people would do that, and maybe I should reach out more. But like I said, it's a blessing when I get a text from you or Facebook from you in the morning, and that allows us to, really expand our coverage of some of these big issues, whether it's the CBD oil drama yesterday or the Marcy's Law issue that didn't happen. And whether we agree or not, it's great that people get an additional perspective from an elected representative. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And I agree, Kevin. There are usually always two sides to every story. And I think it's good to hear both sides, and then you can make an educated decision. On the Marcy's Law thing, constitutional language is vague for a reason. And Idaho was one of the first states in the nation to actually put victim standing in their constitution. But the problem with what they were looking to do with the amendment at this point is it ties the hands of the legislation. If we want to enhance services for victims, we need to do it through legislation. And there were 3 of us lady legislators that had drafted a victims' right protection bill this year. And it didn't get a hearing. But when you have things in the Constitution, 2 things happen. Number one, like I just said, it ties the hands of the legislature to be able to correct mistakes, to be able to right the ship if things are going off course a little bit. It takes another amendment to do that. When we have legislation, we can make those changes and we can make those corrections as we go. We can fix them when we need things to be fixed. Now, this was Marcy's Law has been promoted by a man out of California, and it's unfortunate and horrible what their family experienced. But those protections are already in place in Idaho. The other thing about a constitutional amendment is there's nothing in there that enforces it. You don't enforce it. You create laws to protect what is afforded us by our Creator and protected with the Constitution. But there's no enforcement action in the Constitution. So if we want to make sure that victims' rights are protected, we need to be able to take action to enforce that. And that's the difference between an amendment and legislation. Now, the Idaho Coalition Against Sexual and Domestic Violence, they were not in favor of Marcy's Law either. Boise State University had done a crime victims assessment, and they found 27 or 28 different areas where crime victims' needs could be enhanced or made better or fixed. For example, one of the recommendations said that was just that there's a lack of consequences for the violations of victims' rights. And that legal rights, whether they're afforded through statute or constitution, are only as good as the mechanism that enforces that. And that's what we don't have, and that's what we need to fix. We have some excellent victims services here in the state of Idaho. We have the VINE program and different things. And one of the other concerns about Marcy's Law, one of their representatives, Marcy's Law people, he's from California, and I don't remember his name right now, but he came and spoke to us last week, a few of us, about Marcy's Law. And we asked him, what happens after it becomes part of the Constitution? How is it enforced then? And he said, well, our foundation will have attorneys in place that will come and represent victims that are having challenges with their rights being protected for them. And that was a little bit of a red flag for some of us as well, because what we don't need right now are the courts tied up in a situation like that. We need to be able to make sure that the rights that are afforded a victim in any given situation are protected and enforced and taken care of, and that they are served. The other thing we need to be very careful of is we cannot lose sight of the fact that someone is innocent until proven guilty. Now, that doesn't mean there's not a victim. We just need to be very careful to preserve that assumption of innocence until someone is proven guilty. And we see that even with House Bill 444, the Castle Doctrine Stand Your Ground bill. That was one of the main points of that legislation, is to protect that presumption of innocence until you're proven guilty. And whatever we do with victims' rights, we need to be very careful with that. But a constitutional amendment just is, in my opinion, and obviously that of some others, that's not the way to go. Good, sound legislation that we can tweak when we need to, that we can fix, that we can look at, that's what we need to do to make sure that our victims are served.
Representative Zito, any more word on the Castle Doctrine?
No. I didn't call the chairman yesterday. Someone else called him and asked him when one or the other of the bills, 1313 or 444, were going to get a hearing. And he didn't have an answer for that person that called. They were going to try to put us on a conference call because the chairman had said that he had tried to call me and I hadn't called him back. But I checked my phone log and I hadn't received a call. So this person said, well, I'll get her on a conference call and then we can sort it out and discuss it then. But for some reason, that didn't happen. So I don't know. I don't know if either bill will get a hearing this week. I think we're a little late. We're past the transmittal date and stuff. Or I think too much of anything unless they push it through Ways and Means, which we've seen happen before. That happened last year on the last 2 days of session with the Garvey bill. There's a rally here today. The Second Amendment Alliance is going to be here. We have the woman who flew down from Sandpoint, Idaho, Leanne Anderson, to testify, and she goes home this afternoon because we were all under the impression that the hearing would be today. And so she'll be here in the Capitol today, and I think we haven't, the Second Amendment Alliance has videotaped her testimony. If we do have a hearing and she can't come back or for whatever reason, hopefully we can use that videotape testimony. If not, I'm sure we can get it out on Facebook so that people will understand the humanness of what we're trying to do, of how lives actually are ruined financially and families are torn apart. And that, again, that's a right that's afforded us by our Creator, and it's the job of our government because we give the government that responsibility. We grant them the responsibility to do what we can't always do for ourselves or because it's more expedient to have the government do that, to protect those rights, to protect like that family and to protect our victims. That's the job of our legislature, is to make sure that happens.
Finally, we've got a couple seconds left. I don't know if you were involved, but I'm sure you heard about the CBD oil controversy, and people are buzzing about that. Are people buzzing about that at the legislature and the yelling, the alleged yelling, the closed doors, the sunshine? Can you tell us anything about that?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. I wasn't there. I was in another committee, and it was on the Senate side when it did happen. And, kudos to Senator Potts and Senator Foreman for, taking a stand for the citizens of the state of Idaho. I'm told, I wasn't there, so, but I'm told that the conversation went that the governor didn't want the CBD oil bill, and so it wouldn't have a hearing. And Senator Potts felt that because this was something that the citizens of the state of Idaho had asked for, it should have a hearing. And then to go into closed doors during a public meeting, I don't know if there's precedence for that in the state legislature. Evidently, there's not. But, it goes back, Kevin, to what we've talked about all along. We represent the people of the state of Idaho. Your legislators are your lobbyists. We are the ones who represent you and represent your voice. And it is our duty to do the things that you would like to see happen in your legislature. We don't work for the governor. We don't work for leadership. We work for the people. And I cannot ever stress enough how important that is. And when a legislator loses sight of that, in my mind, in my opinion, that's kind of a sad thing, because you're who elected us. You sent us here. You put your sacred trust in us to represent your voice and to be constitutional and to do the things that you have asked us to do. And so, I think it's an unfortunate thing that happened yesterday.
Well, Representative Zito, thank you for joining us.
Oh, Kevin, anytime. I make myself available to you. Just, whatever you need, whatever I can, help you with or assist the people of the state of Idaho with. It's just in my heart and in the heart of others here to really serve the people. And so, anytime we can clarify anything or get opinions from people or whatever, again, it's just an honor to serve and an honor to have been able to meet you and people like you in the state. And thank you all, everyone out there, for all you do. And just have an absolutely beautiful day.
You too. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right, our great friend, Representative Christy Zito. Okay, Cindy Blair and Pro-Life, you're next. Apologize about that, but we did want to get a report from the legislature. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. And it's time to hear from you, Treasure Valley. Blair, thanks for your patience. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Hey, Kevin, good morning. Hey, I just wanted to, just reiterate that hearing should have happened this morning and that people should be calling into, I believe it's Representative Lurcher's office, and asking him to apologize for that woman who took her time out. And to those who, paid for her to come down and speak in front of that hearing, those kind of tactics are not what we need. If they're going to schedule a hearing, he needs to follow through on it. And if he's not willing to apologize, then I hope his constituents take this into mind when the elections come up and, vote for new leadership.
That's really what they're trying to do, is just run out the clock. And look, what has really changed? There's no grocery tax. There's no Castle Doctrine. No. So who's gonna be held accountable for this? If you like how things are going, I suppose you vote to reelect these folks. If you don't want, really, why don't we just have Governor Otter run the legislature? Apparently that's what he's doing.
Well, and that's the whole case. Even with the CBD oil thing, give it a hearing. It deserves a hearing. If that's what the people want, let's have a hearing. Let's have it out, discuss the facts on both sides, and then let's come to it, let's vote on it.
Blair, that's what I don't get. Having been with you for years here at KIDO Talk Radio, the whole aversion to the Second Amendment, to enhancing citizens' rights to protect themselves. And this is a pattern within the Idaho legislature that has been going on for years. I don't get it.
I frankly don't get it either because, you read the text of the Second Amendment, it's very clear, shall not be infringed. Any infringement on it is unconstitutional prima facie. That means just flat out. It's unconstitutional. And so if you are restricting someone else's ability to protect themselves, you are infringing upon not only their God-given liberties, but you're infringing on their ability to speak out against the infringements of government. If I can, real quick, why was the Battle of Concord and Lexington fought? History question.
Okay, why?
Guess what the British were coming to do? Confiscate private firearms.
Great point. Thank you, Blair.
Have a great day, Kevin.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Cindy in Caldwell, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Cindy.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. Thank you for having the Congresswoman on and for being very astute. And, you know, that gentleman, Matt, was 100% correct. People don't seem to want to anymore, and that's take personal responsibility. It's never the weapon. I had a very interesting conversation yesterday with the person, very articulate, from the Friends of the NRA, and I've tried to get churches, other groups, people that are involved in scouting, to get into or have their youth have firearm safety programs and education, hunter training, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't seem to be stimulating very much interest, as well as trying to get other Congress people, including mine, who I'm very disappointed in on several things. Although contrary that they won't call your show in, Kevin. And, you know, it just is very disappointing to me. But in any event, since I don't put any sacred trust in them, I know wholeheartedly, and the gentleman was, I'm not just going to misquote him, when you exegete scripture improperly, you know what, that swords into plowshare is for the millennium reign. It has nothing to do with being in the real earth, real time now, where we need to have and support the candidate who's going to, just like you said, support our Second Amendment rights. The gentleman, they're just manly men who just, that Matt and the last gentleman that called, of course you need to take, and people don't want to see that, personal responsibility. You know, some stats right out there that if you go to 2015, just go to the Department of Justice. I mean, I can assure you I have seen every kind of a wound and people die from, including medical malpractice. Not that the doctor set out to do that, but 3 wrongful deaths in my family happened. And you know what? I had to learn to forgive them. And with my God, that was a hard thing. My husband, my baby brother, they didn't mean to, but things went south. Guns, you know, in 2015, 285, you know, reported gun deaths. But then there were 2,000 knives. And I can assure you, I have heard stories just from my mother's own personal aide, whose cousin stabbed to death. And it was just such a horrible thing. His girlfriend one night at 12 o'clock, I wouldn't even go into that because it still runs in my brain why he said he had to finish killing her. I mean, so I've seen blunt instrument death, hanging death, I mean, just every kind of thing. So the gentleman who said it, Matt, I believe, it isn't the weapon, it's the person and the ideology and the mindset behind that. But somehow we believe that we don't have that personal responsibility. And I have to go back to the root. If you believe that you came from something else than God, then it's everybody else's fault all the time. So I'm trying to get more people to call your show who are much more articulate than I am. But, you know, people can also be supporting the Friends of the NRA so that they can give monies to get education so that kids don't have to be afraid of a weapon.
Well, and the Friends of the NRA just had a big banquet the other night. Cindy, thank you for the call. Traffic and weather together. Thank you, Larry. Pete in Mountain Home. You're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Hello, Pete.
Kevin, thanks for taking my call. I really appreciate it. And I just want to say I hope everybody else appreciates Christy Zitto, our representative, that we have she really is doing a great job. And I would like to, I have a challenge here for Lieutenant Governor Brad Little, whose advertisements have informed us that he is a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. Lieutenant Governor Little, I challenge you to come out on Kevin Miller's show or elsewhere in public this week, today or tomorrow, and support the Castle Doctrine and request the legislature to pass that and show us that your support of the Second Amendment is more than just words.
Well,
and that's my challenge.
Pete, duly noted. Thank you.
Thank you.
580-5436, 580-KIDO. Coming up next, a Trump aide really goes off the rails. We'll talk a little bit about that. And back to this whole idea about the legislature and the CBD oils and what happened yesterday. Closed-door meetings, some shenanigans at the State House. Find out next with me, Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.